This morning we rise, not because the night was easy, not because the burden was light, not because fear did not whisper to us in the dark. We rise because there is a promise spoken long before our worry learned how to call our name, a promise written in the trembling spaces between doubt and destiny, a promise that declares, "Fear not, for I am with you." In the quiet hush of dawn, when yesterday's disappointments still cling to our shoulders, God leans close and says, "I will strengthen you." When the road bends and we cannot see around the corner, he says, "I will help you." When our knees shake under the weight of living, he says, "I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This is not poetry for the privileged. This is not comfort for the chosen few. This is a divine declaration for the weary mother, the striving father, the uncertain student, the faithful dreamer. Isaiah 41 is not merely ink on a page. It is heaven's answer to human fear. So this morning prayer is not a cry of desperation alone. It is a declaration of expectation. Help is not late. Help is not lost. Help is on the way. And when God moves, mountains remember how small they are. There is a particular kind of silence that visits just before the morning breaks. It is not the silence of peace, but the silence of waiting, the kind that sits at the edge of your bed while the sky is still bruised with night, the kind that reminds you of unpaid bills, unanswered prayers, unspoken apologies. It is in that fragile hour that fear often stretches itself tall and begins to speak. Fear is a patient visitor. It does not pound on the door. It slips through the cracks. It settles into the corners of the mind and rehearses its lines with careful precision. What if you fail? What if they leave? What if you are not enough? And if we are not careful, we begin to answer. But then, like a sunbeam pressing through heavy curtains, comes a voice older than fear, stronger than doubt, steadier than the trembling in our hands. A voice that does not shout, does not argue, does not panic. It simply declares, "Fear not, for I am with you." Notice the tenderness of that command. It is not a scolding. It is not a dismissal of your trembling heart. It is an invitation into remembrance. Because fear thrives in forgetfulness. It grows when we forget who stands beside us. The presence of God is not theatrical. It does not always come with thunder or shaking ground. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet assurance in the middle of chaos. Sometimes it is the steady breath you did not know you were holding. Sometimes it is the strength to stand when your knees would rather surrender. To say God is present is to say you are not abandoned in the valley. It is to say the darkness does not have exclusive ownership of the night. It is to say that even when the path curves out of sight, you are not walking it alone. Fear tells you that you are isolated. Faith reminds you that you are accompanied. Fear insists that you must fight by yourself. God whispers that he has already gone ahead. There is something profoundly human about being afraid. The child afraid of the dark. The mother afraid for her child. The worker afraid of losing livelihood. The elder afraid of fading relevance. Fear does not discriminate. It knocks on every door. But the promise of Isaiah 41 does not discriminate either. It does not say, "Fear not, strong one." It does not say, "Fear not, perfect one." It says, "Fear not, for I am with you." The remedy for fear is not personal bravery. It is divine proximity. When God declares his presence, he changes the architecture of your circumstance. The storm may still rage, but it no longer owns you. The diagnosis may still be real, but it no longer defines you. The uncertainty may linger, but it no longer commands your future. Because presence rearranges power. Think of a child walking through a crowded marketplace. Alone, that child clings to fear. The noise is louder. The strangers loom taller. The path feels uncertain. But when a strong hand clasps the child's small fingers, the same marketplace transforms. The crowd does not disappear. The noise does not quiet. Yet fear loosens its grip. Not because the world changed, but because companionship did. So it is with us. The bills may still wait on the table. The test results may still be pending. The relationship may still feel fragile. But when God is present, fear loses its authority to narrate your life. There is something else about fear. It predicts endings before they arrive. It writes conclusions without evidence. It paints tomorrow in the darkest ink available. God's presence interrupts those premature conclusions. When he says, "I am with you," he is not speaking of a fleeting visit. He is speaking of covenant companionship, the kind that does not dissolve when you make mistakes, the kind that does not withdraw when you question, the kind that remains even when you cannot feel it. And sometimes, let us be honest, we do not feel it. There are mornings when prayers seem to rise only to fall back unheard. There are nights when the heavens feel sealed shut. In those hours, fear grows bold and says, "See, you are alone." But faith is not rooted in feeling. It is rooted in promise. The sun still exists when clouds cover it. The ocean still moves, though you cannot see beneath its surface. And God is still present even when your emotions cannot detect him. Fear feeds on imagination. It asks you to envision worst-case scenarios and then dwell there. But God's presence invites a different imagination, one where you are upheld, strengthened, accompanied. To say "fear not" does not mean danger never approaches. It means danger does not dominate. Consider the lives of those who walk before us. Men and women who faced persecution, poverty, rejection, and loss. Their courage was not born from comfort. It was born from conviction. A conviction that they were not alone in the fire. The fire may burn, but it does not consume what God surrounds. And when fear returns, because sometimes it does, you do not wrestle it with your own limited strength. You return to the promise. "I am with you." Say it when your hands shake. Say it when doors close. Say it when your heart feels heavy as stone. "I am with you." These words are not decorative, they are defensive. They shield the mind from spiraling thoughts. They steady the heart against panic. They remind you that the Creator of galaxies stands nearer than your next breath. There is dignity in knowing you are accompanied. There is power in remembering that the one who formed mountains also forms your tomorrow. Fear may visit, but it cannot evict you from divine presence. And here is the quiet miracle. When you truly grasp that God is with you, something within begins to rise. Not arrogance, not denial, but resilience. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to decide differently. Because you understand that you are not navigating this life unsupported. God's presence is not passive observation, it is active involvement. He does not sit at a distance tallying your failures. He stands close, offering strength, whispering wisdom, guarding your steps. Fear says you will fall. God says, "I will uphold you." Fear says you are insufficient. God says, "My grace is enough." Fear says this is the end. God says, "I am the beginning and the end." And in that sacred exchange, fear begins to shrink. It does not vanish in a dramatic flash. It diminishes gradually, like night surrendering to dawn. The horizon lightens. The shadows retreat. The shapes that once looked monstrous are revealed as manageable. Because the presence of God is illumination. When you know He is with you, you stop running from every shadow. You stop surrendering to every anxious thought. You begin to stand not because you are fearless, but because you are accompanied, and that makes all the difference. So this morning, as the day stretches before you with its unknowns and unfinished business, hear the ancient promise as if spoken fresh into your spirit. Fear not. Not because you are strong, not because the world is safe, not because the path is easy, but because God is present. And where God is present, fear must learn to bow. There are mornings when the body rises, but the spirit lags behind. Mornings when your feet touch the floor, yet your heart feels as though it has run 1,000 miles through valleys of yesterday's disappointments. You wash your face, you straighten your shoulders, you speak politely to the world, but inside there is a quiet confession: I am tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can cure. Not the kind of tired a weekend can mend. But the tired that settles into the bones after carrying burdens too heavy, too long, too silently. And it is into that honest weariness that God speaks a promise, not embroidered with fantasy, but stitched with truth. I will strengthen you. Notice the tenderness of it. He does not say, be stronger. He does not demand that you manufacture resilience from empty reserves. He does not shame you for trembling. He does not criticize the shaking in your voice or the tears that insist on falling. He says, I will strengthen you, which means your weakness is not a disqualification. It is an invitation. We live in a world that applauds the appearance of strength. We are taught to conceal our fractures, to silence our fears, to pretend that the weight does not bend our backs. We learn early how to smile when we are unraveling. We become masters at disguising fatigue with functionality. But God is not impressed by performances. He responds to honesty. There is something sacred about admitting you cannot carry it all. The mother who has poured herself out until her cup feels like dust. The father who shoulders expectations heavier than iron. The student who studies by dim light and still wonders if it will be enough. The worker who clocks in, though hope clocked out long ago. Weakness is not rare. It is human. And yet, weakness frightens us because we equate it with failure. We imagine that to be weak is to be defeated, to be unworthy, to be forgotten. But the promise in Isaiah whispers a different truth. Weakness is the doorway through which divine strength enters. If you were already full of power, where would his power rest? If your hands were already steady, how would you recognize his steadying grip? If your heart never faltered, how would you know what it feels like to be upheld? There is humility in weakness. And humility creates space. Space for grace to move. Space for strength to settle. Space for God to prove that his might is not limited by your frailty. Consider the image of a reed bending in the wind. It does not snap because it knows how to yield. The storm may howl, the rain may strike, but the reed survives by acknowledging the force greater than itself. So too with us. Strength is not stubborn defiance. It is surrendered dependence. God's strength does not arrive as thunder alone. Sometimes it comes as quiet endurance. The ability to take one more step when your mind says stop. The courage to speak truth when your voice trembles. The grace to forgive when your pride resists. It is subtle. It is steady. It is sustaining. There are seasons when weakness feels embarrassing. You compare your pace to others and feel behind. You measure your energy against someone else's and feel lacking. You see their victories displayed and wonder why your own efforts feel so fragile. But you do not know what strength is holding them up, and they do not know what strength is holding you. God strengthens each soul uniquely, intimately, personally. He knows where you are thin. He knows where you are bruised. He knows where you have been pretending, and he does not recoil. He steps closer. I will strengthen you. Those words are not casual. They are covenant. It means when your patience is exhausted, he becomes your patient. When your courage flickers, he breathes upon the flame. When your resolve cracks, he reinforces the foundation beneath you. And sometimes strength looks like survival. You did not quit. You did not collapse. You did not surrender to despair. You woke up again. You tried again. You prayed again. That is strength, not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet, faithful kind. The kind that moves mountains grain by grain. We often imagine strength as towering and immovable, but divine strength is often flowing, adaptable, creative. It finds a way where you see none. It opens doors you did not know existed. It carries you across waters you were certain would drown you. And here is the mystery. God does not always remove the burden. Sometimes he reinforces the bearer. The trial remains. The challenge persists. The obstacle stands. But you find yourself standing too. That is strengthening. There will be days when your hands feel too weak to hold hope. On those days, let hope hold you. There will be nights when your prayers feel too small to matter. On those nights, trust that heaven measures sincerity, not volume. Weakness teaches us dependence, and dependence teaches us intimacy. When you are strong in yourself, you may forget to lean. When you are weak, leaning becomes necessary. And in that leaning, you discover that God's strength is not theoretical. It is tangible. It shows up in unexpected peace. It shows up in renewed clarity. It shows up in endurance you cannot explain. You may not feel powerful, but you are sustained. You may not feel victorious, but you are upheld. You may not feel brave, but you are moving forward. Strength is not the absence of tears. It is the decision to walk through them. Strength is not the denial of pain. It is the refusal to let pain dictate your destiny. Strength is not loud, it is lasting. God strengthens the weak. Because he understands the human frame, he formed it from dust. He knows it tires. He knows it falters. And he does not despise it for doing so. Instead, he infuses it. Imagine a lamp running low on oil. Its flame flickers, uncertain, vulnerable to the slightest breeze. Left unattended, it would fade into darkness. But when fresh oil is poured in, the flame steadies, it brightens. It fulfills its purpose again. So it is with divine strength. You were never meant to burn on empty. And when you confess your emptiness, you position yourself for filling. There is no shame in saying, I cannot do this alone. In fact, there is freedom in it. Because once you release the illusion of self-sufficiency, you make room for supernatural sufficiency. God's strength does not humiliate your weakness. It dignifies it. It says, even here, I am enough. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to change. The thing that once crushed you now shapes you. The burden that once frightened you now fortifies you. The weakness that once embarrassed you now testifies. Because you know beyond doubt that you did not survive by your own power. You were strengthened. So when tomorrow comes with its uncertainties and your heart whispers, I do not know if I can remember the promise spoken into every trembling place. I will strengthen you, not occasionally, not reluctantly, not conditionally, but faithfully. And when divine strength meets human weakness, something extraordinary happens. The fragile becomes formidable. The weary become warriors. The once broken become bridges for others still crossing. Your weakness is not the end of your story. It is the setting for God's strength to shine. And when he strengthens you, you rise not because you never fell, but because you were lifted. And that lifting is holy. There is a truth that the heart often forgets in the hustle of living. Help is not generic. It does not arrive in abstract forms. It does not fall like rain across a crowd, equal in measure, impersonal, indiscriminate. No, divine help is intimate. It is personal. It knows your name. It knows the shape of your struggle. It knows the trembling inside your chest before the world sees it. I will help you, God says. And when he says it, he does not speak in vague metaphors. He does not whisper into the void. He addresses the very core of your life, the exact corners of your fear, the precise cracks where your strength leaks. It is not a distant offer. It is not a theoretical promise. It is as direct as the hand that formed your face. Think for a moment of the weight you carry. The tasks, the doubts, the losses, the dreams deferred, the nights spent wrestling with what if and why me. There is no one else who bears this exact collection of burdens. No one else knows the unique contours of your pain. No one else has lived the script of your disappointment or the poetry of your longing. And yet in the midst of this singularity, divine help is there, tailored, perfect, designed not for the general but for you. When you call upon God, you are not reaching into a universal suggestion box. You are touching a heart that already anticipates your need. That is the wonder of divine help. It is proactive. It is not a last resort. It is not a favor granted only after hours of desperate pleading. It is the quiet rhythm of assurance that has been beating in sync with your life long before you realized you needed it. There is a sacredness in that personal attention. It transforms the ordinary into extraordinary. It transforms fear into courage, despair into hope. You do not receive a diluted form of help, the same as everyone else. No, you receive exactly what your situation demands. The bread when you are hungry. The water when you are parched. The word when you are confused. The presence when you are alone. Divine help meets you where you are. It does not insist that you first climb to a mountaintop or purify yourself perfectly. It does not wait until you are strong or patient or worthy by the world's standard. It meets you in the raw, in the trembling, in the very middle of your life as it is, not as you wish it were. And in that meeting, transformation begins. There is a deep, unshakable comfort in knowing that the help you receive is personal, Because personal help carries discernment. It carries timing. It carries precision. It understands that one-size-fits-all solutions fail in the face of human complexity. God knows which storm to calm, which path to illuminate, which enemy to turn aside. And he does so in the precise measure that your heart requires. Consider the mother up before dawn, the father trudging home weary, the student overwhelmed with lessons and dreams, the dreamer battered by expectation and circumstance. Each faces trials that are not interchangeable, and yet each receives a bespoke response from the divine. One is strengthened with patience, another with wisdom, another with courage, another with quiet endurance. One word, one touch, one sign, perfectly suited. This personal nature of divine help also means that no struggle is invisible, no sigh is unnoticed, no tear is wasted. There is a sacred ledger in which every moment of longing, every prayer, every silent cry is recorded. And God responds not to the volume of the world, but to the depth of your life. You are not lost in the crowd. You are not just one of many, you are known. Many of us live under the illusion that help must be public, visible, demonstrable. We believe that a problem is only real if others acknowledge it. But divine help is not performative. It is intimate. It does not rely on applause or recognition. It is the unseen hand that steadies your steps, the quiet whisper that encourages your soul, the invisible thread that pulls you through what seems impossible. There is freedom in this realization, freedom from comparison, freedom from envy, freedom from measuring your life against the lives of others. Because God's help is not the help that someone else receives, it is yours, tailored, personal, unmistakable. And it does not need validation from outside. Its power is inherent. Its timing is perfect. Its presence is sufficient. When you feel abandoned, it is often because you have looked around and failed to see this personal help. You have measured the response against the world's standards or against the help others seem to receive. You have expected God to operate in formulas that belong to human systems. And in doing so, you have overlooked the intimate work being done in your very life. Personal help often comes quietly. It may not announce itself with fanfare. It may arrive in the form of a thought, a memory, a chance encounter, an unexpected provision. It may come through a stranger's kindness, a friend's encouragement, a sudden insight, or the miraculous alignment of circumstances. It may be as gentle as a nudge and as mighty as a rescue. But it always carries the signature of intimacy. This help is for you, not anyone else, not by chance, not generic. And in recognizing that, gratitude blooms. Because when help is personal, it cannot be taken for granted. It cannot be dismissed. It calls forth awareness, recognition, and response. You are invited into a relationship with the one who strengthens you, guides you, lifts you, provides for you in ways only you can experience fully. The personal nature of divine help also speaks to the responsibility we have to lean in, to notice, to accept. Help is offered, it is not forced, it awaits acknowledgement, reception, and trust. And when we embrace it, when we step into the intimate current of divine intervention, our lives are transformed. We discover strength we did not know we possessed, courage that was dormant, hope that refused to die. Consider the story of those who have faced immense trials and yet move forward. Their triumphs are not only a testament to faith, but to the personal care woven into their journey. Each victory is a tapestry of precise help at precise moments. The father who found wisdom just in time, the mother who received guidance at the edge of despair, the student who discovered understanding in a fleeting insight. These moments are not accidents. They are signatures of a personal God who meets each life in its own unique intricacy. Divine help is also transformative because it teaches us about our own hearts. In receiving help tailored to our needs, we learn patience, humility, discernment. We learn to recognize the hand of God not in abstract theology, but in lived reality. We begin to see patterns, to feel guidance, to notice presence. We develop an intimacy that is personal, reciprocal, and enduring. And here is the miracle of it all. When help is personal, it is never late. It is never misaligned. It arrives in the moment when it is needed, neither before we are ready nor after we have faltered beyond repair. The timing is flawless because it is directed by a hand that knows all the variables, all the circumstances, all the hidden fears, all the silent prayers. It arrives in perfect measure with perfect wisdom. So when fear rises, when doubt whispers, when the burden seems insurmountable, remember divine help is not a generic lifeline tossed into the sea of humanity. It is a personal rope thrown directly to you. It is a hand reaching into the depths of your struggle. It is a light turned precisely where your path has gone dark. It is the assurance that you are not forgotten, not overlooked, not abandoned. In this there is profound peace. There is radical courage. There is unshakable hope. Because when God says, I will help you, He does not mean someone, somewhere, in some way. He means you specifically, in this time, in this place, in this circumstance. He knows what you need. He knows when you need it. He knows how to deliver it, and He will. This is the promise of Isaiah. Divine help is personal. It is not theoretical, not abstract, not distant. It is intimate. It is precise. It is yours. And when you embrace it, when you trust it, when you lean into it, your life begins to transform. Fear loses its grip. Burdens are lightened. Steps are steadied. Hearts are lifted. The weak are empowered. The weary are renewed. And so in every dark corner, every shadowed valley, every season of uncertainty, hear the whisper of personal care. I will help you. Not someone else. Not a general provision, but you here, now, specifically, perfectly. It is personal. It is powerful. And it is unstoppable. There is a weight in life that presses upon the chest like a mountain on fragile shoulders. It is the weight of expectation, of heartbreak, of disappointment, of the relentless demands of the world that never pause, never soften, never forgive. And in those moments when your knees shake, when your spirit falters, when the horizon seems like a cruel joke, there is a promise that comes like sunlight through storm clouds. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Upholding is not a casual gesture. It is not a polite suggestion. It is not a fleeting presence. To uphold is to bear the weight of another with unwavering strength, to steady the unsteady, to lift the fallen, to anchor the drifting. It is intimate, it is deliberate, it is powerful. And when God upholds you, it is not because you are already strong or unshakable. It is because you are human, vulnerable, in need of a hand far stronger than your own. Imagine a child learning to walk. The first steps are wobbly, the balance is uncertain. Fear whispers in tiny ears, you will fall, you cannot do this. But a hand reaches out, firm yet tender, and the child walks again. The hand does not remove the stumbling. The hand does not erase the risk of falling. But it assures that no matter the misstep, there is support. That is God's promise to be the hand that holds you steady when the ground beneath you threatens to collapse. There is dignity in being upheld. Not humiliation, not pity, not condescension. True upholding acknowledges the struggle, respects the journey, and provides strength where weakness is settled. It does not demand that you rise alone. It does not say you should have been stronger. It simply offers the power that your flesh cannot summon, the courage that your mind cannot manufacture, the endurance that your heart cannot generate on its own. The righteous right hand of God is not ordinary. It is the hand of justice, of authority, of divine integrity. It is not swayed by circumstance, not limited by opinion, not faltering because of human failure. It is steady, enduring, reliable. When God upholds you, you are not merely propped up by a fragile reed or a fleeting emotion. You are lifted by eternal strength, by a hand that will not tire, by a power that will not fail. Life often tempts us to rely on our own strength. We measure ourselves against others. We strive, we struggle, we push, and sometimes we succeed, and sometimes we crumble. But the promise of being upheld is that your value, your progress, your existence does not depend solely on your own ability to endure. You are not the sole architect of your survival. You are accompanied, lifted, steadied, carried by a hand that has never failed. There is an intimacy in this upholding. God does not hold the world in a distant, detached way. He holds you, not your neighbor, not your colleague, not someone else in the crowd. You, your trials, your dreams, your fears, your sorrows, your joys. You. And in this personal attention, there is a sacred assurance you are not invisible, you are not alone, you are not overlooked. Upholding also transforms perspective. When your knees would give way, you feel the strength that allows you to stand. When despair whispers you cannot endure, the uplifted hand silences the lie with truth. When obstacles appear insurmountable, the support beneath you changes the way you measure possibility. Life does not necessarily become easier. Storms may still rage, challenges may still loom, tears may still fall, but you are no longer at their mercy. You are steady, you are held, you are sustained. There is a sacred patience in being upheld. It does not rush, does not push, does not demand immediate perfection. It waits, it strengthens, it molds. Like a sculptor shaping clay, God's upholding hand allows growth in its own time, ensures stability before movement, and guarantees that when you do move, you move with grace, with balance, with purpose. Consider the countless lives throughout history. The men and women who faced persecution, injustice, heartbreak, and loss. Their resilience was not born of human strength alone. It was born of a steady hand that upheld them when every other support failed. The visionary who persisted despite ridicule. The mother who fed her children with empty hands but full faith. The dreamer who rose each day in the face of impossibility. Each of them was upheld not because they were invincible, but because the hand of God bore them through the storms they could not endure alone. There is an extraordinary beauty in being upheld. It does not erase struggle, it does not dismiss pain, but it transforms suffering into endurance, despair into hope, weakness into testimony. You may fall, you may falter, you may weep, but while you do, you are not left to crumble. The divine hand lifts you, steadies you, ensures that when you rise again, your steps are surer, your gaze clearer, your heart stronger. Upholding also teaches trust. It teaches the soul to rely not on the shifting sands of circumstance, nor the fleeting assurances of human support, but on a power that does not waver. It teaches surrender without defeat, reliance without shame, confidence without arrogance. When God upholds you, you learn that to lean is not to fail, that to rest is not to surrender, that to be human is not to be abandoned. And the righteous right hand does more than steady, it protects. It shields against forces unseen and often unfair. It diverts harm, it cushions blows. It grants resilience against trials that would otherwise overwhelm. Life may remain unpredictable, enemies may plot, circumstances may threaten. But the upholding hand ensures that you are not crushed, that you are not alone, that you are not defeated by the very storms that would try to drown you. There is hope in upholding, not a fleeting, fragile hope, but one forged in the assurance of divine presence, the knowledge that, come what may, there is a hand beneath you, there is a strength behind you, there is a purpose guiding you, there is a promise keeping you, and this hope carries you forward when your own legs tire, when your own mind doubts, when your own heart wavers. To be upheld is also an invitation to rise in courage, to act in faith, to speak truth, to move forward even when the path is unclear. It is a call to participate in life boldly, knowing that support is not conditional on success but constant in presence. It allows risk without fear of abandonment, decision without terror of collapse, love without the paralyzing dread of loss. Even when circumstances appear impossible, the upholding hand remains. Even when the world says you cannot, the hand of God says, I will bear you. Even when the night seems endless, the dawn is already cradled in that righteous grip. There is profound peace in this knowledge. No matter how heavy the heart, how burdensome the path, how uncertain the future, you are held. You are steadied. You are lifted. You are not left to stumble alone. You are not left to navigate the chaos by human strength alone. You are upheld. And as you walk through life, there comes a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by failure, rejection, or fear. It is the confidence born of being carried by a hand that never falters. It is the confidence that allows joy to bloom even amid sorrow, courage to rise even amid danger, and love to flow even amid loss. To be upheld is to be reminded daily that your life matters, that your journey is precious, that your soul is valued. You are not forgotten, not dismissed, not discarded. You are cradled in divine care, lifted by unending strength, and sustained by a hand that will never let go. And when the storms of life come, as they inevitably will, when the trials press upon you, when the night seems interminable, when the burdens grow heavy, remember this: the hand that upholds you is stronger than the storm, steadier than the shifting ground, and eternal beyond the limits of time. This is the promise of God to uphold you with his righteous right hand. Not someday, not if you are worthy, not when it is convenient. Now, always, steadily, surely. And when you grasp this truth, your life transforms. You stand taller, you walk steadier, you breathe freer, you love deeper, you hope wider. And you live not merely in the strength you summon, but in the strength that carries you, that upholds you, that will never let you fall. You are upheld. And in being upheld, the world itself bows to the power of God's sustaining love. There are moments in life when the world seems intent on breaking you. Shadows gather around your path. Voices whisper that you are too small, too weak, too late. Storms rise where the sky should be calm. The mountain looms taller than your courage can measure. And in those moments it is easy to feel defeated, to believe that the forces arrayed against you will have the final word. But the promise of Isaiah 41 is clear, unwavering, resolute. Enemies and obstacles will not prevail. Notice the certainty in that statement. It is not conditional. It does not hinge on your skill, your timing, your resources. It does not wait for the perfect alignment of circumstances. It is not a wish or a hope or a faint possibility. It is a declaration: there are powers that rise against you, forces that seek to oppose you, yet they will not succeed. They will not triumph. They will not define your destiny. Consider the enemies you face. They may not be literal. They may not carry weapons you can see. Some enemies are invisible: fear, doubt, guilt, resentment, despair. Others are tangible: oppression, betrayal, injustice, cruelty. And still others are subtle, disguised in smiles or in soft words, in the form of delayed promises, closed doors, or withheld opportunities. Yet all of these enemies, real or imagined, internal or external, will not prevail. They may challenge, they may intimidate, they may bruise, but they will not have the final say. Obstacles, too, are inevitable. Life is not a straight path, smooth and predictable. It is jagged. It is winding. It is full of barriers we cannot anticipate. We stumble. We fall. We wonder if we can rise again. We see others moving forward and feel left behind. But obstacles are not permanent, and they are not stronger than the one who stands with us. They are temporary. They are limited. They are no match for divine providence. To say that enemies and obstacles will not prevail is to proclaim a truth that defies the surface of reality. It is not denial of hardship. It is not blindness to difficulty. It is a radical assertion of hope and power that there is a force greater than any opposition, a hand stronger than any adversity, a spirit that moves beyond the visible, beyond the immediate, beyond the apparent. History is full of testimonies to this truth: the oppressed who rose, the silenced who spoke, the rejected who persevered, the weary who triumphed. Each story is a testament not to the weakness of the enemy, but to the sovereignty of the divine. Obstacles may have seemed insurmountable. Enemies may have seemed invincible, yet they fell short. They did not prevail. The outcome was not determined by human calculation, but by the power of a God who declares victory before the battle is fought. There is a personal dimension to this promise. It is not only for nations, for movements, for history. It is for you, for the moments when your heart trembles at the opposition you face, for the nights when your soul is heavy with fear, for the days when circumstances appear overwhelming. God declares that the enemy, every enemy, every obstacle, will not prevail against you, not against your life, not against your calling, not against your destiny. Prevailing does not mean absence of challenge. It does not mean life becomes effortless. It does not erase struggle, pain, or difficulty. Prevailing means ultimate victory, ultimate preservation, ultimate triumph. You may walk through storms, you may endure trials, you may face opposition, but the end will be determined not by the enemy, not by the obstacle, but by the one who declares, "I am with you," and they will not win. There is power in declaring this truth over your life. To speak it aloud is to resist fear. To claim it is to reject despair. To internalize it is to anchor your soul in assurance. When you know that enemies will not prevail, you do not stumble in panic. When you know that obstacles cannot defeat you, you do not collapse in despair. When you carry this promise within, you move forward with confidence, courage, and clarity. Life will still test you. Trials will still rise. Opposition will still appear. But each time they do, you stand not on your own strength, but on the promise that divine power surpasses them. You are not alone in battle. You are not abandoned in the fight. You are held, protected, guided, and strengthened by one who has already overcome all opposition. This truth also teaches perspective. Enemies and obstacles may loom large because we measure them with limited vision. We see the mountain, the storm, the betrayal, the closed door, and we feel powerless. But when viewed through the lens of divine assurance, these adversities are temporary, limited, and incapable of defining the ultimate outcome. They are challenges, not finality. They are tests, not tombs, and they cannot prevail. There is also a timing to divine victory. Sometimes the enemy appears to advance. Sometimes obstacles seem insurmountable. Sometimes the world seems tilted against you. Yet prevailing does not always mean immediate relief. It means final triumph. It means that even if the path is long, even if the night is dark, even if the struggle is fierce, the outcome is secured. The enemy may rage, the obstacle may resist, but the hand of God is stronger. The Spirit of God is greater. The promise of God is eternal. To internalize this truth is to develop resilience. You learn to walk through opposition without despair, to face obstacles without panic, to persevere without faltering. You do not fight in fear. You do not stumble in anxiety. You rise in confidence. You move with purpose. You act with courage, because you know that whatever stands against you is ultimately powerless in the face of divine sovereignty. Enemies and obstacles also teach endurance, strength, and faith. They test the limits of patience, perseverance, and reliance on God. But they cannot overcome the one who has declared your life safe, your journey secure, your destiny intact. They are instruments in a larger story, not arbiters of the final chapter. And in understanding this, you gain insight, wisdom, and strength that could only emerge through trial. There is freedom in this knowledge. Freedom from fear. Freedom from panic. Freedom from despair. When you know that enemies and obstacles will not prevail, you are liberated to act, to love, to hope, to dream. You are no longer paralyzed by opposition. You are no longer enslaved by difficulty. You are no longer defined by what threatens you. You are defined by the power that sustains you. Even in moments of doubt, the truth remains. Even when storms rage, the assurance persists. Even when the enemy seems victorious, the promise stands. Nothing can overturn it. Nothing can cancel it. Nothing can negate it. You are secure, upheld, protected, guided, and victorious, because the God who stands with you is greater than all that rises against you. Enemies may come in whispers, in words, in deeds, in circumstances. Obstacles may appear in walls, in delays, in losses, in pain. But the promise of Isaiah 41 is that none of them have ultimate authority. None of them have final power. None of them can dismantle what God has ordained, what God has designed, what God has promised. So rise each day in this confidence. Speak it into your life. Claim it over your circumstances. Let it shape your thoughts, your actions, your decisions. Declare boldly with courage born of faith, Enemies and obstacles will not prevail, because you know the one who holds your life, who guides your path, who secures your destiny. And in that knowing you walk with peace, move with confidence, and live with unwavering hope. There is victory in this assurance. There is peace in this promise. There is power in this declaration. Life may challenge, adversity may rise, opposition may appear, but they are temporary. They are limited. They are powerless against the one who has already spoken victory over you. And when you carry this truth within, your life becomes a testimony. Your survival, your perseverance, your triumph becomes a witness to the world that there is a power greater than fear, greater than opposition, greater than circumstance. You become living proof that enemies and obstacles, no matter how imposing, will not prevail. Walk in this truth. Speak it. Live it. Believe it. And let the certainty of divine victory shape every step, every breath, every choice. No enemy can overpower you. No obstacle can defeat you. You are held. You are protected. You are guided. You are victorious. And in the end, the forces arrayed against you will fall silent before the unstoppable power of God's promise.